There we go. Okay. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening from wherever you are, from wherever you may be watching this, either live or at another time. Again, my name is Jessie. I am part of the Assistive Technology Advocacy Center of Disability Rights New Jersey, and we are here today to talk about employment and AT, specifically related to the ASPYIR planning tool. ASPYIR, as we get started, stands for Accessing Strategies to Prepare Youth for Independence and Responsibility. So let's begin. Thank you for joining us today. Okay, so the Assistive Technology Advocacy Center, otherwise known as ATAC, is part of New Jersey's Protection and Advocacy Agency, Disability Rights New Jersey. We offer legal assistance and information and referral services at no cost, so for free, for a variety of different issues, and this includes the area of assistive technology. Our assistive technology team consists of a mighty team of two. Mike is not with me at the moment, but he is the director of the Assistive Technology Advocacy Center, and I am the advocate who works alongside him. So we do all kinds of fun things, which we will get into in just a second. Okay, so we are responsible for implementing the Assistive Technology Act within New Jersey. And we provide services to all New Jersey residents with disabilities and older adults. So we have a few main categories here. First of all, we do AT demonstrations. That is, anyone can ask about AT or questions related to how to solve an issue that could then lead us to potential AT for them to use, and that would count as an AT demonstration. We are also partnered with the Lending Center of Advancing Opportunities. They have a try before you buy program where you can do just that. You can try devices and tools before buying them, which really comes in handy for everyone because you don't necessarily know right away. And in fact, I'd venture to say you rarely know right away what tools you'll immediately need until you take a minute to A, think about it, and B, try different options. So that is our try before you buy opportunity. And then we also are connected with Goodwill Home Medical. They are part of a device reutilization program where they take DME, durable medical equipment, and they take equipment that has already been used. They fix it up, they clean it up, and they are then able to sell it at a significantly reduced price for people with disabilities. This could be anything from walkers, mobility equipment, wheelchairs, to all other kinds of medical equipment that is again straightened up and made better to be used again by people in the community. And that is also a really good resource and obviously saves people quite a bit of money at times. So that's very useful as well. So that's a little bit about us and ATAC. Do I have any questions so far? Feel free to come off of mute or put it in the chat. Whatever you're most comfortable with is fine. Okay, we're gonna keep on trucking along. So I would like to pose a thought scenario, but as we begin here, a person with a disability needs assistive technology to support them at school, work, or home. Um, Mind the typo there. It's supposed to be a period, not a question mark. Forgive me. Where would you start? Where would you start within this process if someone with a disability needs AT to support them at school, work, or home? And what do you think your first steps would be? Please feel free to write in the chat if you're so inclined. Reach out to the case manager or teacher. Okay. Anybody else have oh, here we go. They're coming in now. Look at the specific tasks they need to do. Good, good, good. Think about the very first step or two that you would start with. What does that look like? It could be in addition to, or it could be exactly what some people have already written here. Um, I'm trying to get a sense of what you all think before we break this down. Evaluation. AT evaluation is definitely important, yes. Well, I'd say all of these answers are part of the starting process, but there's something that happens or that should happen, hopefully, before all of these options, which is, has anyone ever immediately started by asking the person or student with a disability what it is exactly they wanted to get out of assistive technology support? So before reaching out to the case manager or the teacher, and before the evaluation comes into play, um, and things like that, we should always be trying our best to make sure that we ask the person with the disability first what it is they want and need, whether it's assistive technology related or not. And that is where ASPYIR comes in. So, a little bit about ASPYIR to start off with. The main goal of ASPYIR is that it assists students with advocating for themselves at IEP meetings and helps develop the transition section in their IEP. Now, please note, ASPYIR does not take the place of an IEP or a transition plan. It is not a legally binding document. It is simply an online questionnaire that generates a report which helps students in preparing to get ready to graduate high school and start life after high school, whatever that may look like for them. Each report is individualized and person-centered. But again, I'm going to say this a few more times throughout this presentation. ASPYIR is not a legally binding document. It is a tool, a planning tool to help students get started and be as independent as possible in their self-advocacy process for what they want in school, at work, and in the community at home. Today, we are focusing on the employment section of ASPYIR, but I can assure you that all of these sections fit together quite nicely, and they are all linked, regardless of the focus. So, ASPYIR assists students to better understand their strengths, interests, preferences, and goals for their life after high school. The series of questions are in three main areas, specifically, again, education, employment, and independent living. And this assists them in helping develop goals in these areas. And the report also comes with a list of community agencies and organizations that provide additional supports for students with disabilities. So before we jump into more of the specifics, first let's think of assistive technology as a definition introduction to begin with. We have assistive technology related to devices and assistive technology related to services. Where devices are concerned, this is any item, equipment piece, or system that is used to A, increase, B, maintain, or C, improve functional capabilities of people with disabilities. So that is the device section. But then the services section, although sometimes overlooked, should not be um should not be something that people uh forget. The service section of assistive technology includes any service that directly or otherwise assists individuals with disabilities in the process of selecting, acquiring, or using an assistive technology device. So service use for assistive technology is just as important as devices. This is the part where we would say something like, people are usually interested in stuff a lot, and the stuff matters, for sure, but the stuff, otherwise known as devices, only comes so far if you also don't know how to implement the stuff to better help people with the services they need, related to how assistive technology is going to help them with their day-to-day lives. Do we have any questions or comments so far? If people want to put anything in the chat or come off of mute, please feel free. Okay, looks like I'm going to keep on going. So there are many different sections of ASPYIR. I did mention the main three, which as we see up here on the slide, again, education, employment, and independent living. Today's focus is going to be employment. However, ASPYIR also includes areas of hobbies, interests, motivation, goals, receiving help, IEPs, strengths, preferences, needs, accommodations, self-advocacy, and of course, like I said before, a list of organizations for people with disabilities. So where exactly can you use ASPYIR, or can anyone use ASPYIR, whether it's students or adults? You can use it for IEP meetings at school. You can use them for DVRS meetings when preparing for employment. This is especially important for DVRS meetings because, as some of you may know, sometimes DVRS meetings have a tendency to be pre-planned. They've already looked over paperwork of a individual with a disability, and they have come up with ideas of their own to gently guide the person with a disability into vocational opportunities that DVRS themselves feels that they'd be best suited to. ASPYIR, again, helps the student, helps the person with the disability decide, you know what, I'm going to take a more active step in telling people what I want and need. So you can, in fact, and I strongly encourage people to bring their ASPYIR planning results to your DVRS meetings to make sure that they are focused on you specifically and what you want and not just what they think might work for you based on what it says on other paperwork that they have. ASPYIR results can also be used at work when requesting reasonable accommodations. We all know that it is very difficult to start a new job, and so you are able to, if you would like, print out your results and either bring the full results with you or, write down um, the employment section results on a smaller piece of paper. And when it comes time to request reasonable accommodations at your workplace, you already have the accommodations and the concerns listed that you've discussed in your planning tool. So that is also very helpful. Or you could use them at ISP meetings with your DDD support coordinator. Again, there's lots of different ways to use the planning results, and you don't have to use them in meetings if you don't want to. You can use them as your own personal reminder or checklist for independent living goals or other goals related to what is covered within the planning tool. Okay, so these are just some screenshots of what excuse me, what the results will look like. I specifically used this screenshot for a particular reason. If you look at the bottom of what's labeled as page 2, it says, I think I will need the following accommodations and modifications to reach my full potential, after previously explaining what may be needed in terms of assistance for future education or job training. And not only are you able to select and check off pre boxes that have already offered a variety of different options, you are also able to write in very often within fill in the blanks or other categories that will be marked as other or just blank text boxes. You are also able to write in any additional things that you feel you might need. So I always tell people who are taking ASPYIR to please make sure you adequately use the fill in the blank opportunities. This person, for example, has done a good job of making their plan much more individualized because they specifically have asked for timers, task managers, speech to text, post-it notes, and agendas. Now, these items, in terms of assistive technology, could be related to a variety of different disability needs. However, the fact remains that they are understanding that they need these tools to better themselves in the workplace. And they used the opportunity to have that fill in the blank feature. And not only did they check off things that were already there, options that were already there, such as extended time for test assignments and calculator access, they also provided further detail and input as to what they might need. Okay, so like I said, today we're focusing on employment. And the previous slide did talk about a variety of different organizational tools that help people do things like be on time, which is, of course, a huge part of being employed and also staying employed. So we're just going to jump right in in more detail as to why ASPYIR is helpful in relation to planning for employment. So again, I'm providing more screenshots of the results that are available. Um, it says my employment goal, and then it says what job the user has decided to write in as far as their interests. It also offers you a transition planning tip. These transition planning tips are offered a few times throughout the tool. They will be listed in purple um, text boxes. So again, not only are you answering these questions on your own or with support, now mind you, when you're answering questions with support, the answers should still be your own, otherwise this becomes someone else's planning tool. But not only are you making this planning tool your own, you are offered guidance along the way in the form of these little notes within these text boxes. So this person has decided that they probably want to work with children. And then they are prompted to say what skills they're good at, um, which is a very common and effective way to start out thinking about employment opportunities. Nobody wants to go into a job that they feel they won't be as good at. And you kind of always want to consider the skills that you feel are more up your alley than not. So, uh, the skills that they're good at, they said they're good at working with people, um, which fits in nicely with this idea that they're going to work with children. Are there any questions or comments so far that I can help with? I don't see anything in the chat. And um, so I'm going to keep on going. But again, I do encourage you if you feel more comfortable to come off of mute, feel free. Okay? So again, with the focus being on employment, we make sure that pre-ETS services are discussed, which are, of course, the starting points for students with disabilities to get ready for employment and work in high school and beyond, depending on their wants and needs. They can identify the type of job they want during high school, whether that's part-time or full-time. And they also have the opportunity to select what types of environment work best for them. Um, so this person's chosen a small business setting to work for someone as opposed to being self-employed. Sit down work, being around people, working on the computer, and being in an indoor setting as opposed to outdoors. Now, if you would like, people are able to select things that are seemingly contradictory to each other. So you can say that you wouldn't mind working in an indoor or outdoor setting, and that you don't mind being around people, but that you also like working alone. You can say things that are seemingly, again, contradictory. It offers you questions of this nature to really give you a sense of whether or not you're able to choose as best you can how you want your ideal job to work and look and be for yourself. And again, I'm going to remind you, there's plenty of opportunities to fill in the blanks. This makes the planning tool more individualized for people. Okay, we're going to skip ahead a little bit here. And we are going to focus on initial considerations when it comes to ASPYIR and assistive technology. So, Do you have anything assistive technology related in mind that you think might work? A. And B, what do you absolutely not want? Okay, this second question here, what do you absolutely not want, is an often overlooked question. I am reminded of many times when people are given tools and devices that they have no interest in using, and the device just kind of sits there. And um, the person may be encouraged to use the device, to use the tool. They may even have notes in their IEP that says, student has been given such and such device to use for the purpose of XYZ, but they are non-compliant in using it. Well, that may be true, but have we ever thought about whether or not people are non-compliant in using these devices and tools because no one asked them what they wanted in the first place or what they did not want? I am a huge proponent of asking students if they like to blend in or stand out or be somewhere in the middle. And if someone wants to blend in when using assistive technology, there are plenty of assistive technology tools that everyone uses, disability or not, disability or not. And so for the purposes of blending in, maybe the student is going to ask to focus on using tools that they already have at their disposal that do not make them stand out. Now, on the other hand, there's plenty of assistive technology, pens and notebooks and other items that slip quite easily under the radar, and no one would ever really know unless they looked really carefully that it was technically an assistive technology device. That being said, if you would like to stand out and um, be very open about needing this, that, or the third, you are by all means allowed to do that. It is whatever the student wants and whatever they feel is best for them within reason. Um, Kind of similar to the idea of reasonable accommodations. For example, if you need a stationary chair that doesn't move, that's one thing that's considered reasonable. If you're asking for a golden throne, that's not necessarily reasonable. That won't be thought of as a reasonable accommodation within the workplace. So you do want to keep those pieces in mind. Okay. To continue on, you're going to want to make sure that when you're using Aspire, and you're filling out the employment section of this planning tool, that you make sure you take time to think of the questions that you might want to be asking the people who are going to be helping you on your assistive technology journey. You're going to want to ask what they think is best in terms of what you want. They, not everyone is going to have all the answers, and the student won't have all the answers either, but it should be a collaborative process. The student and or the adult with a disability should be involved in device selection. You should feel free to talk about how your assistive technology suits or does not suit you. Perhaps you need to go back to the drawing board and consider other assistive technology options if your current assistive technology devices aren't doing everything that you want them to do, or you're not feeling as though you're getting as much out of them as you thought you would be. A really, really neat thing about Aspire is that you can take, and you are encouraged to take, the planning tool as many times as your heart desires. Now that seems kind of silly the way I just said that, but it is true. And there's a specific reason, especially related to employment, why taking it over and over again as needed is particularly helpful. And that is because people grow and move and change throughout their careers. Um, in today's world, people could have a variety of different jobs in the same category or totally different fields. Um, you could have one job 3 years ago, and then for the next 5 years, you have a totally new career opportunity. Um, so taking Aspire as many times as you need as your life changes and grows and you continue to move on and move forward is very reasonable. You're not gonna have the same wants and needs and concerns at 18 that you would at 26, that you would at 36, and so on. So you're gonna want to really take the opportunity to say, hey, do I need to take, is it a good idea to take the planning tool again? Will Aspire help me out if I'm thinking about possibly changing jobs or getting a better sense of like how I need to um, focus on the ways in which to stay on top of my work. Um, any of the questions that Aspire asks related to employment will help you in obtaining and maintaining employment. Um, so you're going to want to keep all of that in mind. And so then just continuing on with these other factors that we want to consider. Does your assistive technology increase productivity and confidence? Okay, so this is especially important in the classroom setting and in the work setting. Productivity and confidence are two of the main necessities in being successful at um, at one's job. So does it mean that you have to be confident all the time? Of course not. However, um, your boss and coworkers will likely want you to maintain productivity and be um, getting your work done on a regular basis, doing it well, producing good product, etc. So when you think about assistive technology, is the assistive technology you're using helping you to achieve those goals? And then finally, does your assistive technology show you that you might benefit from other tools, services, or accommodations? Sometimes you can be using tools or devices that spark an idea, showing you that maybe additional assistive technology would be helpful as well. Um, so you want to consider this factor too. Okay. Um, Aspire is a wonderful planning tool for students and adults with disabilities. And it really does do a lot of, it really does do a lot for people to consider how assistive technology fits into their employment planning process. However, assistive technology doesn't start and stop after devices. Again, we talked about the difference between the definition of assistive technology devices and assistive technology services. Um, I would strongly recommend that Aspire be used with other resources. Again, Aspire is a starting point. It is a starting point to then discover other needs, other wants, other goals. It is not something that is considered the end all be all. So if you are stuck on employment, on the employment section, and you're kind of not sure how to ask some of the questions that may be beneficial in the employment sphere, you might want to look at the employment toolkit from the Department of Labor, um, and use other resources like this one as you move through employment. What I really like about the employment toolkit from the DOL is that it talks about not only preparing for work, but starting the job, maintaining the job, which is just as important as actually getting the job, right? It really takes you through different categories of employment. It even has a section on retirement, for when people are lucky enough to get to that point. The toolkit offers questions that you might consider, questions that might spark further ideas for you to write down within your Aspire planning tool answers. So again, you're gonna want to use other resources as you move through employment, as you move through planning for work, as you move through the work process. Don't just sticking with one thing is not always the best answer. In the same ways that sticking with just one particular AT device will limit you from understanding that there are many different types of AT, high tech or low tech, that really would help you be more successful and feel better when you're on the job. So that is just another consideration to keep in mind. And then we also need to remember as a community, especially when helping those with those people um, who need more assistance, that there are different considerations to keep in mind while using AT. Planning for your wants and needs during your day and how assistive technology factors into that process is a huge part of work. So, for example, you will want to consider tasks, what time of day it is, having multiple of the same AT tools within reason. Now, this means that uh, it's not necessarily 10 laptops that you're choosing to take with you, but you're going to want to think of AT that can be used while adapting on the go. So we have the Jetsons here from back in the day, and they were already, uh, you know, paving the way for all kinds of cool tech that we have now. Um, and we just, we just didn't know it yet. So, speaking of having the AT tools with you at all times, consider the idea of adaptive grips or universal cups. You could be using these um, for different tasks at work, whether they're work related or not. Maybe you need the universal cuffs for help with utensils when you're on your lunch break. Maybe you need them before you go out the door if you're getting ready for work and getting dressed with AT. Um, Maybe you need them in the car, whether or not you're driving. You're going to want to consider different types of AT tools that you can take with you on the go. And remind yourself as you do this that things like your computers, your laptops, your iPads or tablets, and your smartphones already have a variety of AT tools for you to use at your disposal. And this brings me back to an important point, which is reasonable accommodations. Um, Reasonable accommodations are very important, but we are now living in a time where assistive technology may already be available to us without having to request reasonable accommodations. There are many, 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 many apps and features on our tech devices that we use for work and day-to-day employment needs that are already built into our phones and our laptops uh, slash tablets. Um, so whether that's a text-to-speech option or um, a um, magnifying option for those who are um, blind or low vision. There's just a variety of different things that you should be making sure you consider to use before you potentially go and ask for reasonable accommodations. That's not to dissuade you from asking for reasonable accommodations. It's just making you aware that AT is very much already out and about and available um, for your everyday use. Now, does everything work for everyone? No, but um, the potential to use these tools are there. Um, so it is really, really neat and just very not very positive that there are so many AT tools already available that don't require um, actual reasonable accommodations being made. I'm gonna check the chat. Do we have any questions or comments as we start to wrap up? I know this is a lot of information at once. Right. So I want to focus again on the personalization of your plan when you're taking Aspire. Um, there is an About Me section that I've taken a little screenshot of here, um, that talks about a variety of different. I just noticed a question in the chat. I will get to it in 1 second. Let me just finish this portion of the slide real fast, and then I will come back to your question. Thank you for asking something. So to go back to the idea of filling in wherever you can more personalized details about yourself. Yes, on the surface, this looks very simple. My hobbies are, my dreams and goals are, I am concerned about. Um, However, when you think of this in a more specific manner, and especially in relation to how assistive technology can be helpful, these are continued opportunities to make sure that whatever has not been covered previously in past pages of your Aspire planning tool, whatever has not been previously covered in Aspire for you can be entered here. Um, so, um, whether or not that includes specifically talking about AT that you need or goals that you are not even certain at this time have an AT related aspect. I still encourage you to keep filling in the blanks as much as possible because the more details you put in the plan, the more individualized and personalized it becomes. The less details you put in the plan, the more it just looks like um, that someone's answered a handful of questions, yes, but they're not really getting down to the nitty-gritty of who they are and what they want. So hopefully that makes sense about why filling in the blank um, and using the open text boxes are especially important. I'm looking at the chat box now to go to the question that I was just asked. Do we plan on having a presentation focused on the educational aspect of AT? Um, can you explain what you mean by this more? Do you mean in relationship to Aspire, or do you mean in general in terms of how, okay, Aspire. Um, we do not have that scheduled as of yet, but I know that we're always planning ahead for future presentations, and the likelihood that we continue to talk about education linked to Aspire and possibly having a focused presentation on it is not out of the question at all. The answer is we don't have it yet. We may have it in the future. Um, However, you bring up a really good point, and I thank you for this because um, this goes right into my next point. Thank you. Um, Many people who go through school, um, yes, I can share the presentation, that's fine. I will share PDFs of the slides. Um, Many people who go through school uh, often use the same transferable skills in the school setting that they might need for the employment setting. And it doesn't just stop at the classroom, right? If you need to get up and get ready in time to go to school and not miss class, the same skills that you've learned and perfected over the years, hopefully, um, or continue to get better at over time, are needed for getting to work on time, right? Um, if you have a homework deadline, for school, um, the skills that you need to meet those homework deadlines are similar, maybe not completely, but definitely have a similar quality to the skills and tools that you may need to meet work deadlines. Transferable skills are transferable for a reason. And where AT is concerned here, we want to use what we already have. Again, thinking back to the idea of what have I used in the past that had been effective in other situations and scenarios that can be used in employment settings. Um, whether it's big, small, high tech, low tech, what have you, what has already worked that I can continue to use. The person who uh sorry, not the person, but the screenshot that I had multiple slides ago of someone who was asking for timers and organizers um and ways to keep up with staying on top of things. Those are all organizational related skills that are needed in both a school setting and a work setting. So when a student takes Aspire and when an adult takes Aspire, they shouldn't feel like, oh, because I have no work experience yet, potentially, that means that I'm not ready. Actually, you're more ready than you think. You should be using the skills you've previously learned and acquired in multiple settings. Just like you should be carrying your AT over as possible in multiple settings. Again, we're not talking about, if someone decides to carry around 5 different devices, like that doesn't seem very um And of course, depending on how heavy they are, that doesn't seem like the best case scenario. However, if you have AT like apps within your smartphone or apps within your iPad or tablet, and then you also have low-tech items like your grips, like your grabbers, like your post-it notes, and whatever else. You have the AT on the go that you need to get started with um, when it comes to employment. Do you have everything you need all the time? Of course not, but it is like Aspire, a starting point to get you going and headed in the right direction. Okay, so this presentation will be on YouTube within the next few days at least, and I can share the presentation. Um, so everyone who registered today will get a PDF of the slides. And I just want to take the opportunity to ask again if there are any further questions or comments related to AT and employment or AT and Aspire. Um, I am going to go back to the very beginning because those are our emails. So you can always reach out to us directly if you have further questions or comments that you don't feel like talking with us about today. And we thank you for joining us. Um, I'm going to stay on for just a minute to see if anybody else puts anything in the chat. Oh, thank you. Thank you very much. Okay. I'm going to stop the recording.